My girlfriend said to me at that moment when I caught her on a date with another man, "I wish you'd disappear forever. I'm fed up with your questions." I quietly replied, "Very well." Then I revealed all her secrets to her boyfriend and vanished. Later, what happened to her was enough to shatter her world. Dear friends, please subscribe to my channel and boost my motivation. Thank you. I'm a 30-year-old guy who thought he had life figured out. 3 years with someone I genuinely loved, or at least thought I did. We lived together in a decent apartment downtown, split bills fairly, and had what I believed was a solid relationship built on trust and communication. Turns out, I was the only one building anything. It started about 4 months ago when she began working late more frequently. Tuesday nights turned into Thursday nights, then weekends. She worked in marketing for a mid-sized tech company, so the excuse of big client presentation or urgent campaign deadline always seemed plausible. I never questioned it because I trusted her completely. Looking back now, I realize how incredibly stupid that sounds. The first real crack appeared when I noticed her phone habits changing. She'd take it everywhere: bathroom, kitchen, even just to grab water from the fridge. The screen was always face down. When I'd walk into a room, she'd quickly close whatever she was looking at. Classic signs, right? But I kept telling myself I was being paranoid, that I was turning into one of those controlling boyfriends who checks their partner's phone. Then came March 15th, a Thursday. I'll never forget that date because it's when my entire world shifted. I was supposed to be at a work dinner with potential investors, but our CFO got food poisoning an hour before, so the whole thing got postponed. I texted her around 6:30 p.m. to let her know I'd be home early. No response. Called twice. Voicemail both times. I got home around 7:15 p.m. to an empty apartment. Her car wasn't in our parking spot. I figured she was actually working late for once, so I ordered takeout and settled in to watch some basketball. Around 9 p.m., curiosity got the better of me. I opened the Find My Friends app we'd set up ages ago for safety reasons. Her location showed she was at Marcello's, this upscale Italian place about 20 minutes away. My stomach dropped. Marcello's wasn't near her office. It wasn't near anywhere she'd have a work meeting. It was a date spot. We'd been there for our anniversary last year. I sat there for maybe 10 minutes, trying to rationalize it. Maybe it was a team dinner? Maybe a client meeting? But she would have mentioned it. She always mentioned plans. I grabbed my keys and drove over, telling myself the entire way that I was overreacting, that there'd be a perfectly reasonable explanation. I parked across the street and saw her through the window. She was sitting at a corner table, laughing at something, leaning forward in that way she used to lean toward me. Across from her sat this guy in a fitted button-down, probably mid-30s, with the kind of confident smile that made me instantly hate him. They were sharing a bottle of wine. Her hand was on the table. His hand covered hers. I walked in. The hostess tried to stop me, but I brushed past her. When I got to their table, she looked up and the color drained from her face. The guy looked confused, then annoyed. "What are you doing here?" she said, pulling her hand back. "That's what I should be asking you," I replied, keeping my voice steady. "Who's this?" The guy stood up. "I'm Daniel. And you are?" "Her boyfriend. We live together." I watched his face change as the realization hit him. He looked at her, then back at me. "Boyfriend? You told me you broke up 6 months ago." She stood up quickly, grabbing her purse. "This isn't. We need to talk about this in private." "No," I said. "We can talk about it right here." "How long has this been going on?" "You're embarrassing me," she hissed. "Can we please just go outside?" Daniel was still standing there, looking between us. "Hold on. 6 months? You've been lying to me for 6 months." "Both of us, apparently," I said to him. Then I turned back to her. "How long?" She looked at me with this expression I'd never seen before. Not guilt, not sadness, but pure irritation. Like I was an obstacle she was tired of dealing with. "I wish you'd disappear forever," she said coldly. "I'm fed up with your questions." The entire restaurant had gone quiet. I could feel everyone staring at us, but I didn't care anymore. "Very well," I said quietly. I walked out, got in my car, sat there shaking for probably 15 minutes before I could even start the engine. When I got home, I packed a bag and went to my brother's place. He took one look at me and poured 2 glasses of whiskey without asking questions. Update 1. The next morning, I called in sick to work and spent the day figuring out my next move. I wasn't going to be the pathetic guy who just disappeared quietly while she continued playing both of us. If she wanted me gone, I'd make sure my exit left an impact. See, there were things about her that Daniel didn't know. Things she'd carefully kept hidden because they didn't fit the image she was projecting. I knew about her maxed-out credit cards. She owed nearly $40,000 from her shopping addiction that she'd been hiding from everyone, including her parents. I knew about the time she got fired from her previous job for falsifying expense reports, something she'd lied about on her resume for her current position. I knew about her brief stint in therapy for compulsive lying that she'd quit after 3 sessions. I also had access to our shared cloud storage where she'd stupidly saved screenshots of conversations with at least 2 other guys she'd been messaging over the past year. Nothing physical from what I could tell, but definitely emotional affairs. Definitely evidence that this wasn't her first rodeo. I created a burner email and sent Daniel everything. Every screenshot, every document, every receipt. I included a timeline of our relationship, proof that we'd been together the entire time she'd been seeing him, photos of our apartment lease with both our names on it dated from 2 years ago. I wrote, "You deserve to know who you're actually dating. She told you we broke up 6 months ago. I'm attaching our lease renewal from 2 months ago. She's not who she pretends to be. I'm done with her, but you should know what you're getting into. Good luck." Then I blocked her on everything. Phone, social media, email. Changed our Netflix password. Removed her from my car insurance. Started the process of getting her off the lease. Update 2. 3 days later, my brother told me she'd been calling him, trying to reach me. He told her I didn't want contact, and hung up. She showed up at his apartment that same evening, crying on his doorstep. He didn't let her in, but she left a handwritten letter that he eventually gave me. The letter was 6 pages of justifications and apologies. She claimed Daniel had pursued her aggressively, and she'd been confused about her feelings. She said I'd been emotionally distant, news to me, and she'd needed attention I wasn't providing. She promised it was only 2 months, not 6, and that she'd ended things with Daniel after our confrontation. She begged me to talk to her, said we could go to couples therapy, that she'd do anything to fix this. I threw it away without finishing it. What I didn't know yet was that Daniel hadn't just dumped her. He'd told his entire friend group what happened, and since they ran in overlapping social circles with some of her work colleagues, word was spreading. Her carefully curated image as this professional, put-together marketing executive was crumbling. But the real fallout started when her boss called her in for a meeting. Update 3. One of Daniel's friends happened to work in HR at her company. When he heard the story and saw some of the documents I'd sent Daniel, specifically the falsified expense reports from her previous job, he'd quietly flagged it to their department. Her company ran a background check they apparently hadn't done thoroughly during hiring. They discovered the discrepancy about her previous employment. She was fired on April 2nd, about 2 weeks after our restaurant confrontation. I found this out through a mutual friend who still talked to her roommate from college. According to this friend, she'd completely fallen apart. Without her job, she couldn't afford her half of the rent. Her parents found out about the credit card debt when the creditors started calling them. She'd apparently listed them as references years ago. Daniel had not only dumped her, but had warned several other guys in their social circle about her dishonesty. She'd moved back in with her parents by mid-April. Her mom had called my phone once. I'd forgotten to block that number, and left a voicemail saying I'd ruined her daughter's life over a mistake, and that I should be ashamed of myself. I deleted it and blocked that number too. Final update. It's been about 6 months now since everything exploded. I'm still at my brother's place, though I'm looking at my own apartment for when our old lease finally ends next month. I've been seeing a therapist to work through the trust issues and the weird guilt I sometimes feel about how completely everything collapsed for her. But here's what I learned from my brother's girlfriend, who apparently still follows her on Instagram through a fake account. She's working retail now, paying off her debt slowly while living with her parents. She deactivated most of her social media after too many people from her old life kept asking questions. The last photo showed her at some family barbecue, looking tired and about 20 pounds heavier, with a caption about new beginnings and learning to be authentic. Part of me feels bad about how hard she fell. But then I remember that restaurant, her face when she told me to disappear, the complete lack of remorse until there were consequences. She didn't just cheat. She built an entire false life with Daniel while keeping me around for stability. She lied on her resume, racked up debt she hid, and strung along multiple people without caring who got hurt. I didn't ruin her life. She built a house of cards and got mad when someone finally knocked it down. Daniel reached out to me about a month after everything went down. We got coffee. Turns out she'd been telling him she was a consultant who traveled for work, which explained why they mostly met on weekdays when I was supposedly at my office. He'd been planning to propose in June. We laughed bitterly about how thoroughly we'd both been played, then never spoke again. What else was there to say? I'm doing okay now. Trust doesn't come as easily, and I'm probably going to be suspicious of the next person I date for a while. But I'm also relieved. Better to find out at 3 years than at 13 years with kids involved. Someone asked me recently if I regretted how I handled it, specifically sending Daniel everything. Honestly, no. She made choices, and choices have consequences. I just made sure the consequences caught up with her.